For the next hour we will control all that you hear.
You are about to experience the knowledge and insights of the Media Mothership.
Alright, welcome to episode 91 of Media Mothership, broadcasting out of Edge Radio Studios here in Nipaluna, Hobart, Tasmania. On this show we explore how media can shape our understanding of the world around us. We're streaming on edgeradio.org.au as well as, I believe, YouTube and Twitch. Who knows? We do have a chat window up, possibly connected to those streaming devices. So do let us know if we're streaming or not on there. Or you can SMS us directly into the studio on 0488811707. I'm your host, Dr. Craig, joined by PhD Ashley?
Yes.
PhD Ashley?
PhD Ashley works. I'm back again.
You are!
I'm like Godzilla, like we discussed last week. I'm back.
That's right. People thought,
Just can't get rid of me.
What a cliffhanger from last episode. With the reveal of the manga. What was it? Manga Kaiju Caramelize?
Yeah, Kaiju Girl Caramelize.
Kaiju Girl Caramelize. And that got us talking afterwards about manga, and we got talking about moe, I think, and I was saying how I felt moe is associated with the decline of kind of manga and anime for some people. And that's spawned today's topic, which indeed is going to be deep diving into some genre aspects of, or some classification aspects of Japanese comic books and animation, and the broader impact that can have on us.
Yes.
Media culture more broadly. So today's topic, we're going to be looking at moe. The definition I've got here, and we'll be trying to tease this out during the whole show. Definition I've got here is it refers to a feeling of strong affection or adoration towards characters who are cute, innocent, and endearing. These characters often evoke protective and nurturing emotions in fans. It's a term used to describe the charm and appeal of these characters, making them beloved by many. Does that kind of get us started?
Yeah, so I'm sure there'll be people who will disagree and go for a very, moe is this type of character, but that's I guess from Patrick Galbraith, I think.
Patrick Galbraith, one of the key kind of researchers in this space. We'll put some links to some of his work in show notes later.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, the definition that he uses, and I think it's quite a decent explanation, so yeah.
Excellent. And look, we're going to put a bit of a listener discretion advised thing here to save us, as inevitably our discussion might stray in the direction of the controversial topic of lolicon. So that's content, lolicon's content that includes themes that may be disturbing or uncomfortable to some listeners, including the portrayal of young characters in potentially explicit contexts. We encourage listeners to approach this episode with sensitivity and awareness. Listener discretion's advised. So yeah, it's going to get pretty exciting or informative.
Yeah.
Both, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
So to get us started, as we've done, we're going to turn the start of it into a bit of a react discussion. I came across 2 YouTube clips from 9 years ago. I mean, obviously, manga and anime, there's content that's happened since then, but I think it gets us off to a good start. So what we're going to do is play aspects of these first 2 video clips. The source is from SourceFed Nerd. Do you know anything about SourceFed Nerd?
I've heard the name. I think we've reacted to him before, maybe.
That's right. Well, my inoculation is still in my system, so I think we can react again. All right, so what we'll do is we'll play their first parts of moe, and we'll pause it at certain points and try and unpack it a bit further using our combined intellectual might.
Yep.
So here it is. What is moe?
What is moe? Is it cute? Is it innocence? Or is it creepy? We have just stepped into dangerous territory as moe has multiple meanings and the subject itself is highly argued over all the time. The main issue with moe is that the line between moe and lolicon is sometimes blurred. We'll discuss the controversy over moe in next week's episode, but for now let's clarify what moe actually is. In general, I think of it as a distinguishing feature or trait that makes a character stand out in a charming and endearing manner. A lot of people explain moe as having a little sister effect where you want to take care of or protect the character. The word itself originates from the Japanese word moeru, which means A, to burn up, or B, to sprout or blossom.
Okay, so I like that Japanese origins, to burn up and to sprout and blossom, because it is one of these translation headaches that you hit when you're taking a Japanese concept into English. Because I guess in Japanese, this term, and the reason why we're not saying, because we could be saying in English,
Yeah.
this is my, like, I have a burning feeling towards this character. I have a budding feeling towards this. Neither of those work, right?
No,
We
no.
never say, you know, what did you really like about last night's episode of My Little Pony?
Yeah.
And you could be saying, well, you know, I loved how, you know, this My Little Pony character did this.
Pinkie Pie.
Pinkie Pie.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm specifically using My Little Pony because I do think that
Yeah.
has some of the Western, it's a Western text, which I think shares a lot of this moe.
I think definitely Generation 4 has a lot of moe in it.
Generation 4?
Yeah.
Which generation's
That's the previous generation. It was massive and sparked the whole brony movement. And
that? Right. Oh, right. So
Yeah,
within
so you
the
had-
My Little Pony universe, of course, My Little Pony came out in the 1980s.
Yeah.
That's Generation 1 or something?
Generation 1, I think Generation 2 followed on kind of like it was the lines were blurred where 1 ended and 2 began. Then 3 came out, I think, in the 90s to early 2000s. And then Gen 4 came out around 2010 and was crazy popular.
Because you had the bronies.
And now we're up to
emerged
5.
within that?
So, yeah.
Right. And My Little Pony was huge. It had adult fans. It had male fans
Yeah.
towards this property, which had been kind of, you know, stereotyped as kind of girl enjoyment.
Yeah.
And the reaction to that has aspects of this moe thing we're describing, right? Where people
Yeah.
is like, this is my favorite character, which I guess is kind of like, okay, so we've got this term, literally translates as a burning or budding.
I do not know for certain. I don't want to
Oh, that's true. That's
put myself
I believe
down.
It is.
So
I believe it is. When I've heard moe defined.
I definitely do not know the translation for moe, but I'll take their word for it.
But I think, yeah, within its anime manga usage, it's also a kind of appropriation of this term to convey, you know, these kind of sentiments of, again, a kind of adoration, heightened interest, right? That, yeah, I guess affection and adoration, right? So why do
I think the best way to sort of view it would be something like when you look at like a puppy and you go, "Aww," that sort of feeling you get when you do it. That is the word moe is sort of encapsulating that sort of feeling, but to a fictional character.
Yes. So the feeling you have in your heart when you see a puppy, and you know maybe you pat its head or you cradle it.
Oh, now you're making me think. Oh,
Yeah. But we're talking not about the actual puppy here. We're using it as a term used by fans for popular culture. Like I'm thinking, I don't know. Well, I'm going to get to examples that I think in the West might work. But let's push on then.
Kanji most associated with the concept is the latter. The origin of moe is pretty obscure. One could argue that it's existed forever, but many believe Tomoe Hotaru or Sailor Saturn from Sailor Moon is the first instance of how moe came to mean what it does today. This is
Are you a Sailor Moon fan? Sailor Moon, is it the ground zero?
took forever to get around to watching Sailor Moon. I watched it and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I do like Sailor Moon.
The moe connection in Sailor Moon, though.
I can see it,
see it?
and
Yeah.
I've heard this sort of origin of moe, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily in these days think Sailor Moon when I first think moe.
Yeah, because Sailor Moon, I mean, it's not like there's a puppy equivalent character in Sailor Moon, right? There's adorable characters.
Yeah.
But there's not that, yeah. Are they adorable, innocent, adorable? I mean, yeah, there are probably better characters that fit more firmly into
Yeah,
that.
I think it was really that spark of like this character is almost like you feel sad for it and want to protect the character, sort of like they're so sweet and you want to protect them sort of feeling. I think that's where Sailor Moon, they sort of attribute it to, but I don't know if I would necessarily say that might be where it originates from in terms of etymology and whatnot, but these days I wouldn't necessarily think that one.
Best.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Is due to her defining traits like her fragile body and personality, her sad past, her delicate nature, all of which make you want to save her. And also because her last name Tomoe is written in the kanji that's associated with Moe. Since it's hard to understand and define, I've come up with 3 pieces of criteria that a character needs to possess in order for it to be considered Moe. First, is the character cute? And I don't mean kawaii, I'm talking over the top, makes you want to squeal and melt type of cute. Second, is the character...
Okay, hold on. So cuteness, right? So I'm thinking, like, I try to make a list of Western characters I was thinking might fit into some of these classifications. So cuteness, maybe the minions from Despicable Me.
Yes, I think 100% you could put that into that sort of almost like that moe kawaii sort of category. I don't think they're cute, but a lot of people absolutely crazy for them, and you know, I think you can definitely.
Because I guess they've got what childlike behavior. These are the minion characters from Despicable Me, and they're kind of certainly the merchandising around them. There's this kind of cuteness. Certainly, my 15-year-old daughter had a heavy enjoyment of the minion characters. I guess their playful actions. So so cuteness. Maybe Nemo.
I could definitely see Nemo.
Innocent. I mean, I guess as you're saying, it's that innocence and vulnerability, maybe more there. Let's push on.
Character innocent and easily flustered by the notion of romance.
So this is number
cute.
2.
And I don't mean kawaii, I'm talking over the top, makes you want to squeal and melt type of cute. Second, is the character innocent and easily flustered by the notion of romance.
Innocent. Certainly the innocence. I think there's tons of characters in the West that people love. Again, Nemo from Finding Nemo. I did a search actually, and one of the things on ChatGPT that it said is a moe from the West is Dobby from Harry Potter. Which I don't know, it's a stretch. I mean, so they said Dobby, the house elf, is a moe character in the Harry Potter series. His loyalty, innocence, and vulnerability combined with his endearing appearance evoke strong feelings of affection and protectiveness from both the characters in the story and the audience. So they're saying the characters in the Harry Potter story behave in a moe fashion towards Dobby.
I suppose so.
Think? I mean, that one really threw me when it came up as a suggestion. Innocence, kind of.
This is one of those times I can't tell if ChatGPT is getting smarter and becoming sentient, or if it's just going off the deep end and is getting more dumb.
It's definitely an unconventional choice.
It is.
For Dobby. I mean, the innocence, loyalty, yes, he's a loyal character, but loyalty is not really part of the moe core defining
necessarily.
qualities.
I think what's interesting about this sort of video is also it's taking the other approach of a more characterization of moe as opposed to Galbraith's more feeling element.
Yeah. So I do want to get around to Galbraith's points. Because this is very character centric. Rather than talking about unpacking the psychology of us as viewers, it's almost that kind of database animal moment of saying, okay, here's a spreadsheet of the rules of the moe connection. And I think the thing that's misleading about this is that it's not like I could go out tomorrow and create my manga that has these rules and get it to be moe.
Oh,
because it's not as easy as that, right?
Unless you're Kyoto Animation, in which case, for anyone not familiar, it's an animation studio which is known for being only moe making machine. Even when it tries not to, they go, oh no, it's just moe.
It's true. It's interesting here though that they link that idea to innocence. Sub B category of the innocence is a sexual immaturity, a kind of an embarrassment about sex, or how is it expressed? It's
Type of cute. Second, is the character innocent and easily flustered by the notion of romance? This is a
right, romance. Yeah, so that kind of naivete towards attraction, and again, a part of that, I guess, would be, it'd be interesting the settings that that's placed in, and where that can get into trouble, as we'll look at in part 2, is that age issue around that issue.
Yeah.
All right.
It's important because inexperience with romance speaks to innocence, which alludes to being vulnerable, which makes you want to protect and save them, and that is a huge defining factor of what makes a character Moe.
Protect and save them. See
Yeah.
that? And that's the Dobby. Does Harry want to protect and save Dobby? Or... I keep coming back to Dobby. We're really going to do an entire episode on Dobby one day.
Oh gosh. I suppose so.
Protect, but okay. So
Maybe that's a comment, like a poll for your chat and everyone listening.
that's a great idea. Putting Dobby aside, then protect the character and kind of save their innocence. That seems both in world as well as the defining categories of how a fan could react.
Yeah, so you've also got that emotional, like, I feel like I need to protect. And I guess you could look at that with a really cute puppy. You also get that feeling of, like, I need to protect this really cute puppy because it is so cute.
Yeah, it's vulnerable, it's young, it's not fully formed yet. Okay. Pushing on.
Third, does the character have some sort of a quirk? It can be a physical feature like their hair color, oversized glasses, or pigtails. It can be behavioral like crying all the time or being clumsy. Or it can even be a part of their speech pattern. Invader Lum saying dacha and cha at the ends of her sentences is a good example.
A quirk.
I think that's just good character design. Like, if you don't have a quirk of a character, you forget the character exists. So
Yeah.
I
Kind
don't...
of so the catchphrase, cowabunga.
Yeah.
That seemed. I guess if you were to interview fans about their favorite characters and break it down, what is it that you find really appealing about this character, then they might fixate on a particular item of clothing.
Yeah, it might be like what they wear, it might be, and this is like when you read a text, like, you get stuff out of it. I see people cosplay certain characters because they like this sort of the way they act in the show. It might be the way they speak. It can be a lot of things. So I don't think it's necessarily a trait of Moe. I think it's just a trait of any character you remember.
And talking of characters we remember, coming into the studio, you can't get in. It's my co-host Taylor. Ashley, let's do improvised theatre of the mind. Ashley's opening up the door now to Media Mothership's Moe character, Taylor. Right, I'll turn your mic on.
Hello.
Hi. So you're joining us into the discussion now of defining Moe is Taylor.
Yep.
Who mainly K-pop, right?
Yeah.
But Moe, have you come across the term Moe?
Not in K-pop, no.
So we're going to pioneer
Is there
that.
an equivalent term in K-pop?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What is it?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know what it is.
SMS in now, if you do. All right, so we're up to category 3. So now we're moving into final statements from this video of defining Moe.
Okay.
My favorite Moe characters are Rika from Chunibyo Demo Koi ga Shitai, Chiyo-chan and Osaka from Azumanga Daioh, Kotomi from
All right, well, that's a bit boring. She's just listing off her...
I approved of Rika straight away. Top tier,
right,
one of my
right.
favorite characters, so yes.
Clannad, Kuroneko from Oreimo, Kosaki from Nisekoi, Maraka from Nagi no Asukara, Numi from Tonari no Seki-kun. I might as well just read Kana Hanazawa's IMDb. Check out a bunch of these and more on Crunchyroll.
So what I can understand from that is Moe means you have big eyes. Is that right?
It is a kind of defining feature. What was the definition we've got so far? It's that the character is... What were the 3 rules? It's that they've got to be...
I've already forgotten.
I know.
This is...
It's they've got to be... I think the rule 2 is they've got to be innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And, it means that in the viewer, they want to protect them. So, for example, I was saying that the character... I kept coming back to Dobby. Because I did a damn JetBTG search, and it said, here's the following characters from the West that are Moe. And it had, obviously... My Little Pony in there, but I had E.T. the extraterrestrial. So it said E.T. is a Moe character because childlike innocence.
Okay.
It's vulnerable, right?
Yep.
So there's a part of the definition, vulnerable and childlike innocent. They evoke a strong protective feeling in both characters in the movie and the audience.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Wall-E is Moe, again, because of this innocence, loneliness, pure-heartedness that the character has. The minion characters from Despicable Me.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are kind of childlike and cute, right? There's also a cuteness to them. So E.T., I wouldn't say E.T.'s cute or Wall-E's cute. I mean, people can define cuteness at a bit of a stretch. Equally, Dobby is not cute. But yeah, the Despicable Me minions are Finding Nemo, the Nemo fish, the Nemo character. Again, vulnerable, innocent. Now, Dobby. So the argument here is ChatGPT saying Dobby, the house elf, is a Moe character in the Harry Potter series. His loyalty, innocence, and vulnerability, combined with his endearing appearance, evoke strong feelings of affection and protectiveness from both characters in the story and the audience. You're a huge Harry Potter fan.
Yeah.
So do the characters in Harry Potter behave protectively and with strong affection towards Dobby?
Harry does.
Harry does.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Harry would here be demonstrating the characteristics of Moe towards Dobby. There could be a great fanfic there. There probably already are.
Oh.
There would be 100.
In a previous life on Media Mothership, we did some radio dramas based on fan fiction type experiences. So that's what we've unpacked so far. Ashley made the great point that what we're focusing on here, however, is a definition of Moe, which is based within the character, right? The other way of coming from this question isn't based on what are the defining rules of characters that you need to have. It's instead what the experience of the fan is. So we're going to play a short clip from an interview with Patrick Galbraith. The name of the clip is "What is Moe phobia?" But first he defines Moe. So we'll listen to that.
And how they interact with characters in their everyday lives. So when we're talking about Moe, I think what we're talking about is specifically an effective response to fictional characters. And there's a lot of parts of that are important, but I'm just going to focus on a few. So it's an effective response. So someone's responding. What are they responding to? Or they're responding to something. It can be a lot of different things, but it tends to be a manga anime character, right? So it could be a manga anime character in a game, or it could be a manga anime character in a light novel, or it could be a manga anime character as a figurine, or it could be the voice of that manga anime character. But in the world in the sort of field in which I'm interacting with people, they tend to reserve that term for this kind of response they have to characters. So affect meaning just simply a kind of response, a bodily sort of response. You're sort of being moved by this encounter with another body. So that body that we're talking about is a fictional character, is the kind of theoretical frame I'm working with. So for them...
All right, I'll just pause it there. So rather than saying it breaks down to this kind of matrix of characteristics, innocence, childishness, protectiveness, and cuteness, and a character quirk, it's much more a kind of, do you feel a certain emotion towards a character, right? And again, these feelings would be, a feeling of maybe protectiveness. What were the other characteristics that could be? Protectiveness?
Big eyes.
You don't feel big eyes. You don't have that filled me with a feeling of big eyes.
Isn't the whole thing around big eyes is it's meant to elicit a dopamine response when you consume it?
I thought it was meant to be a kind of a parent-child bond. that
Okay.
gets triggered biologically that we associate at
Yeah,
a
because
kind
babies
of.
got big eyes.
That's right, they got bloody big eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I made it with that emphasis, but no. It's an idea. It's kind of in our reptile brain, that trigger of nurturingness because of the associations we have. I'm not a psychologist. A complete warning there to
You're
anyone
not.
listening to this. That's not clear by the 91 episodes up till now that we've done.
So yeah, it's like they overdo it in order to elicit a response. So I'm thinking of like when you've got in Studio Ghibli when characters cry and they've got these massive streams of water that come out of their eyes. It's because that is the embodiment of crying.
Yeah, and so so I guess there's two ways of coming at it. One is, the just definition we heard before, which was, here's the characters and here's what they do. The other one would be once you start talking with people that like particular types of manga and anime or texts, and they define certain emotional connections, then suddenly that's where that term moe would be useful to unpack it. I mean, that's kind of what you were gravitating towards as well, Ashley.
Yeah.
Are you convinced by that approach to it? Is that a more convincing way of approaching this question?
I will always side with Patrick Galbraith over a YouTube channel. So,
except if it's Media Mothership.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. 100%. I should specify Media Mothership #1. But yes, just Patrick is always, very good at breaking down these concepts. So
yeah, look, I mean, and I do think it's an important distinction to make because what I think matters here is that, after hearing the rules of creating moe characters, I couldn't rebrand Media Mothership as like the moe version and assume that people are going to have a protectiveness and love towards Media Mothership.
Yeah, moe mothership.
Moe Mothership, because you can't just manufacture that in that way. It has to happen organically. It has to be something that, and it's really that, that emotional engagement. And you can, good filmmakers can manipulate that, but they can never guarantee it. Totally. So as you were saying, the tears welling up and all of that, in theory should translate to this emotion. But equally, it could be mishandled, and suddenly you're laughing at this scene, or you're just turned off of the scene. So yeah, we'll unpack further aspects of that. I mean, I'm interested, I guess, in maybe that's part 2 definition, because that gets into this area of, that's all well and good, and it's interesting trying to translate that into the West, where these figures are very much engaged with at an almost adult to adult level, right? You've got, Harry Potter or teenager to teenager level. What if it's, adult to child kind of unpacking? So let's have a look at, again, returning to definition 1, if we're defining it as core characteristics semiotically of a text or character, what that moe translates as.
What is Moe Part 2? After last week's episode, we now know what Moe is, so let's talk about what it isn't. Many argue that Moe is an evolution of lolicon, lolicon being the blatant sexualization of young or young-looking girls. The correlation...
Is that correct? Lolicon is the blatant sexualization of young-looking girls.
I would say so, in a pretty simplistic way, yes.
Because, and it comes from, like, Lolita Complex, and I know there's the book Lolita that came out, in the 1920s or something, by the Russian author?
Yeah. No, sorry, I was Russian author, yes.
Russian author, yes.
I was just getting confused because I know Lolita, the clothing, does not originate from there. So I was getting lost in this.
Right.
Yeah,
so when...
I originally had that back when I was doing my honours, and Emerald King got really picky on me, saying, no, you can't do that. And, trust Emerald. Amazing.
I mean, is the clothing that we're talking about here that kind of French made?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really trivializing, reductive way to refer to it. But it's that...
Some of that, yeah, but there's other styles. But yeah, no, Lolita, completely different from lolicon.
Right. So that Lolita fashion. Do you know anything further? Well, we'll get Emily into this.
I know that it's not cosplay, and I know it is not related to lolicon. So,
Is it related to Comic-Con?
yes.
Okay.
No, well, you do see it at Comic-Con sometimes.
Yeah, you
so,
do,
yes,
yeah.
so it is related.
Yeah, and I guess that's right. Yeah. So the definition I've got from the ChatGPT search I did, I should just caution this because what I'm saying is from a search like that. So lolicon in manga and anime refers to the depiction of young prepubescent girls in a way that emphasizes their infinite innocence and cuteness. So we've already had that as the kind of moe-ness. But they add to that, it's often with a sexualized undertone.
It can, I would say for lolicon, yes.
Yeah.
Lolly
For moe,
by
it doesn't.
itself is different because it's a character
Right.
portrayed in that way.
Lottie, so you can have a Lottie
Although
character.
that would just be just a young character, so how you define it could be different, but lolicon is that complex, so feeling that attraction. And for male, it's shotacon.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So yes, what we're referring to here is Lolita complex. So
Yep.
it's a complex. It's a kind of a type of engagement with a character from a reader or a viewer, which has within it a kind of sexualized undertone in terms of how they explain it. What's the other one? The shelter.
Shotacon.
What's
so
shota?
Shota is like young boy, and then complex.
Right. Right. And equally, what we're talking about here
Yeah.
are prepubescent characters. So it involves characters who are designed to evoke a sense of attraction or affection, as we defined in moe, and typically that's fine. You know, the Dobby character, I can't get him out of my head.
Are you going to turn him into a shotacon now?
I fear that might
But
be
no,
happening.
no.
SMS in now if you want my fan fiction. No, I'm thinking maybe Nemo from Finding Nemo and the Minions from Despicable Me. Right? They do have affection as a fan. But the controversial here is the age and portrayal of these characters. So let's continue our dive in here.
Comes from the notion that adult males shouldn't be obsessed with a show like Magical Princess Minky, Momo, or My Little Pony that's aimed towards a young female audience.
Yes, that's interesting because I know there was something I was reading even about the writer of Sailor Moon was saying she just doesn't get why there's a lot of adult male fans. And it's not aimed at that audience. It's not intended to be engaged with. And she doesn't say it's creepy, but as you're reading between the lines, you're thinking, well, clearly, there's a creepiness potentially around this story depicting high school girls and their magical powers.
I think it's just a transformative way of like looking at the text. You find meaning in it. Maybe it's this strong females in your life. You're supportive of the feminist message. Maybe it's, you don't like the physical punching. You like the magical element. I think people will read it many different ways and
My
doesn't
Little
have
Pony.
to be creepy.
Yeah, My Little Pony shows
really
that.
good storytelling. Yeah.
That brony element, that adult engagement element. Were you a My Little Pony fan?
No.
Okay.
I'm a Bluey fan.
Oh, well,
but
see,
Bluey,
there we go.
yeah.
Bluey. All right, so Moe and Bluey is pretty strong, I feel. Like these feeling. I mean, how would you define the Moe-ness of Bluey in terms of
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, in the case
innocence
of
and cuteness?
Bluey and Bingo,
And Bingo is a character
Yes.
who does what?
is Bluey's sister.
Okay, right. What are the ages of Bluey and...
Oh, I think it said like 3 and 6 or 4 and 6. I think, yeah.
And it's a kind of nuclear family?
Yeah.
And the fans of Bluey extend beyond kids watching it and
Yeah.
the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
An example of that was the Bunnings store did
Yeah.
a sale or something. Did you find a lot of other adults buying the Bunnings
Oh
Bluey
yeah,
gnome?
yeah.
Or
Yeah,
was
the
it was a
gnomes. The gnomes, yeah. The set of 4 limited edition gnomes. It was only adults that came in and bought them and then fleeced them on the eBay and stuff like that.
Have you fleeced yours yet?
No.
Okay, you're saving them up as a...
Yeah, still
Retirement.
worth $450 each, but sure.
Because again, Bunnings isn't a store associated with toys and kids. I mean, obviously, parents will go there to go shopping, and the kids will be there, and there is, a kids' play pen in some of those stores. But yeah, it is a type of store that adults will also.
Japan, you get Akihabara selling anime figures. In Australia, you get Bunnings selling
Yeah,
Bluey.
yeah,
It's
that's
our
very
soft
true.
power.
Yeah, I like that. Bunnings. Okay.
Regardless of whether there is any lolicon involved, it's just kind of hard to justify the fixation, and that's where we enter the gray area. However, in my world, the two are completely separate things. Moe is simply a trait in a character that you find adorable, while lolicon is wrong.
Okay, right. That puts a really hard full stop on it in terms of saying, Moe. I mean, we can engage with Bluey as a Moe text, which I think is uncontroversial and really interesting in terms of the kind of trans ageness going, the kind of crossover of ages that are there. But there is it's so difficult to engage with this space.
Yeah, so it does get very grey area, and unfortunately Australian laws are terrible at addressing that sort of grey area between there, because there's a lot of federal police. A lot of it comes around the Customs Act of 1901.
In Australia, the Australian Customs
federal,
Act, 1901. So we're talking like
it's gone through.
Era?
Yeah, it's gone through a few revisions, but it's still extremely outdated. In which the border force determines whether you've broken a law or not, bringing content into the country. It's enforced by the AFP. Nowadays, with the internet, the E-Safety Commissioner also gets involved, and you have the independent jurisdictions. But all of this is also meant to be under the classification board, which is outlined in that act. And
so there's two things. So
yes.
The first thing is the border force. So this is the classic kind of border security TV show that you will watch, where normally they're busting, someone bringing in something that has like a lot of ants in it because it was this wooden totem pole from Papua New Guinea, or someone that's brought in like a kilogram of raw eggs that's in some kind of plastic container. It's like, oh, I didn't know this was a problem. They're also going to bust you for a comic book.
Yeah, so if you've got like your secret stash of Dojins cheese, like you could get busted. But yeah, no, it's...
And it has happened, right? People have come in through this country and been put on the sex offenders list because the border security officers determined that this, comic book that's come in from, let's say, Japan, they felt that is portraying young prepubescent characters in a sexualized context.
Yeah, absolutely. And the really frustrating thing about the law is that all these jurisdictions are really bad at negotiating the grey area, but the classification board is probably the best handle at adapting and considering that nuance.
So the classification board, this is what, for movies and video games, we'll have like a PG classification, an M classification, MA, so they're also going to act potentially within manga.
They can react. There's 3 classifications for books. And I need to do a disclosure here because I am an accredited and authorized reviewer for the classification board.
Really? That's fantastic.
I got the confirmation email this morning. So...
You're kidding? So
yes.
Because this has been a mystery to many people out there in terms of who is it that determines... Because what is your role? Are you part of that group that determines?
So I could theoretically do that. I went for it because I was sort of researching this space of where the grey areas in the law says around this sort of material lately. And I wanted to get more of an inside look of how they determine all that. And it comes down to 6 elements.
Hold on.
Sorry, I'm going to...
My mind is blown. How did you apply for this position? Is it just the website? Like,
you just go to their website, you send them an email saying, I would like to do this. They send you, they enroll you in a course and you do a course. You have to pass at a certain degree. So to be a... authorized person, you have to get 80%. You have to be 90% if you want to be accredited.
Correct answers on a multiple choice questionnaire.
So you have to sit there's about 20 questions multiple choice, and then they actually show about 10 clips, and you have to say, okay, this is where it's rated. This is what I observed. These were the stuff. You have to pay attention to everything.
Right. So these would be like you'd point out breaches of some. Like the amount of skin that gets shown.
Yeah, so it'll be like, okay, based on the skin showed, where would this fall between, you know, G to, you know, all the way up to R-rated, because they don't permit beyond R-rated, so X or refuse classification.
It's not allowed in Australia.
Yeah, so it's just those 5 categories that we're familiar with. And what they base it on is they've got 6 elements in which they make assessments on, which is violence, any sort of sexual imagery, nudity.
So violence would just be like a Chuck Norris action movie. Sorry, that's a weird reference. With a gun.
Violence, yep, but it can also, and this is one thing for those who want to sit the test now.
Yeah.
Sexual violence also falls under violence,
Right.
and same with like domestic and coercion and some of that. Although coercion could also fall under one of the other elements here, but yeah, then you have sex, which is just pure, like, you know, sexual contact. It doesn't have to be full, like, you know, sexual scenes, but even things like groping or things like that, it could be fall under. Then there's nudity, which is separate from sex. So the idea of separating the two is, say, if you've got like a bath scene or something.
Right.
Yeah. So, or like a comedy butt scene or something.
Yep.
So it's not sexual in nature. It might be for other reasons. Then drugs are another factor. Language, so swear words. And then themes, which is a broad element. And then there's mitigating factors, which help determine. So they've got these 6 elements. They're factoring in mitigating factors. There's so much there that it's like the test alone took me way too long to do. It took me a full day of like thinking about it and having to look and go, is this right? Is that right? It is quite a full-on test. So don't go in thinking, oh, I can just pass it, no problem. No, it is full-on. But yeah, no, that's why they're actually really equipped at determining these factors. But how our system is set up under this act and under a lot of the laws, it means you've got about 7-8 different jurisdictions conflicting with each other.
By jurisdictions, you're meaning like the federal Australian government, then you've got Tasmania at a state level.
So like between states, you have different laws. So like most states, for lolicon, for instance, we have this no rule, anything under 18 is illegal. Then you've got like Queensland and I think another state, which is like, between, 16 to 18 is fine.
Right, so even if there's sexualized content portraying a character that's aged between 16 and 18, for example.
And this is for animated characters as well,
right.
I should specify. And so you get that sort of legal, and then it can be legal under Queensland law, but not under federal law.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you get all these like really conflicting laws, and so it is a mess to navigate. And it would just be so much easier if everyone just took a step back and left it to the classification board, because they are really good at determining these sorts of things.
In terms of the manual, I guess the information that's there, the clarity of the semiotic unpacking.
Yeah, so they look at it and they go, okay, because one of my thoughts was the Simpsons movie, when Bart Simpson is skateboarding, there's a scene with his genitalia out, and you go, why is this PG rated or G or what? I think it's PG in Australia. Why is it that's okay, but like isn't that where it falls into some of this grey area? And under all those other jurisdictions, there is a high likelihood it would fall into criminal stuff. But the classification board can say, no, it's an animated joke deliberately set up with all this previous context. Yeah. It's only in like this one less than a second clip, and it's intended for a comedic reason. It's not a sexualized reason, and therefore we can determine it is not a part of this sort of lolicon, shotacon pornography.
And that would be mitigating circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why the classification board is really good at determining things like that. And like, say, a lot of like Totoro when you're in the bath scene and that where you've got an adult bathing with children, not in a sexual way, just a cultural context. The classification board can look at it and go, yeah, that makes sense. And then once the classification board looks at it, it deregulates it and makes it more accessible. Once it's classified, it falls under the law of acceptable. So with a lot of this context in Australia, it's a lot more simple when left to the board. It's just typical Australian governments overcomplicating things.
In terms of, those states and... well, that's interesting. Well,
sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent, but I felt it was important to bring up.
Let's listen to this now. This is Is lolicon legal in the United States? Now, Ashley's done a great job unpacking it in Australia. What I like about this ad is it's a legit legal professional saying, have you been busted for lolicon?
So this is a legit ad?
Yeah. Call me now. And he breaks down, again, this confusion.
Yeah.
Saying, in the US, I imagine it's far worse because of state power being quite a bit stronger than federal
I imagine
power,
free speech would also be something
so
that...
they get around to. So let's listen to this. And then, obviously, it's not going to speak to the Australian case, but it is an interesting kind of example of, I guess, the commonness of this issue where someone's brought something into the country and realize now they're busted. Anyway. I think it starts soon.
I'm criminal defense attorney Michael Becker. Loli is Japanese manga or anime that depicts underage characters in a sexually explicit way. Federal law prohibits loli possession if 1. The depiction of the underage person is obscene or lacking serious value. And 2, the loli was transmitted through the mail, internet, or common carrier, or was transported across state lines, or there are indications that you intended to sell or distribute it. Therefore, if you possess a large amount of loli, prosecutors will probably presume you intended to sell it in violation of federal law. And unless you created the images yourself, it would not be difficult for prosecutors to prove that you unlawfully obtained the materials over the internet or through the mail. Meanwhile, different states have different laws regarding if and under what circumstances loli is illegal. In our experience, we may be able to get loli-related criminal charges dropped by arguing that the cartoons are protected by the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of expression. If you have an outstanding warrant or have been arrested in California, contact the attorneys of Schaus Law Group. We'll fight to get your charges reduced or dismissed.
There we go. I do like how he says it as like lolly.
I cannot get past how static he comes across. It broke me. Like
Dude, I don't know if I'd feel in safe hands.
No.
But look, I mean, it does speak to the point that this material, there has to be great care in terms of the engagement with this material. And if you're a research student such as yourself, Ashley, part of the decision making, I guess, going on is how you can unpack this, the kind of cultural and social headache that's presenting itself at the moment. How have you? So you've engaged and now become you've engaged with learning and passing the test to become a part of the classification board.
Yes.
Will you get is it like Batman? You'll get called up at some point saying,
I think it's more of an elect-in. So I've got access to a portal, which I think I can access other stuff and be like, yes, I'll do this thing. But I have no intention of doing that. If you asked me 5 years ago, I would have said this was my dream job.
Is it volunteer? Do you get paid for it? Or?
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I basically I wanted to go in to understand a lot more of how the decisions are made. Yep. The 6 elements really unpacked, really, really great. I've got modules downloaded, which they've encouraged. They've encouraged to download them. and have a copy, but I've got them downloaded so I can understand.
And these are modules which like unpack some of those.
Yeah, the
core
six
theories?
elements. So
Right.
they unpack like violence. What is violence? What isn't? How are they classified? They've got the list of swear words from things like bum being potentially like
Right, yeah.
you know
If you-
G-rated.
if you hear this,
Yeah.
do you as a classifier need to now indicate on
Yeah.
the box that this is G, but it has occasional swear words?
Yeah, and how the sort of things and how you write on, even how you write on the classification like G, and then it's like parental guidance is recommended for younger viewers or something on the box art and that.
Yes.
So like they teach you all that, but
Which
yeah.
one's your favorite?
My favorite of the six elements?
Sorry, that's a crude way of putting it. I'm trying to, maybe not favorite, maybe most. It's not enjoyable to unpack. Is there
Out of
one
the
there
six
that?
themes, I think themes is definitely the most interesting
Right, because that could be like occult themes or something.
it can be stuff like that, horror, if
Yeah.
there's horror and high suspense, and a lot of those sorts of imagery. It's also got many other mitigating factors and stuff that, if you've got like a movie about extreme homophobia, for instance, it would fall more under the themes than any of the others. So, yeah, very interesting.
Do you get a badge?
I don't think I'm meant to get anything, but I did get a printout saying, yes, I'm authorized. So
Something
I've got
you
a
could frame.
PDF, so I'm thinking about framing it.
Oh wow.
I've blown your mind.
Yeah. Is it like crowdsourcing it? Like you put in like could you choose like if there's a video game coming out soon or a movie?
I
you could
can't
say-
do video
I know
games.
exactly what you're doing because you have tried so long to get into the movie reviewing business. You're trying to be able to watch movies and classify them.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That's what you're doing.
But I can't do video games at the moment.
Oh, how come?
Because that's a different module.
Really? You
So
have to go through a
I've
whole
actually
other-
signed up to it. I just haven't had the time to complete it.
Right.
Hopefully it's not too different, so I can go through it a bit quicker. But yes, there is
I don't know,
another
video
module.
games, it's such a different genre
Yeah.
in terms of like it's open form. Some gamers won't even engage with a particular scene. And this is, Australia has such a it's such a reputation for so long as being a very draconian state for country for video game classification.
And I'm not a current accredited person for that, so I can take a step back and say it wasn't me.
So, okay, so
Does it go through the same classification for music as well?
Music, I'm not 100% sure because music does have its own classification, as does books have 3 categories. I think television's now been moved into film, but it's not being offered at the moment. Other than that, I'm not sure. So, yeah.
well, it'd be fascinating to have you back in the future to hear if you've engaged with any actual. Do you have a disclosure legislation? Like, can you disclose anything?
I can't talk. I know I really just based on my own knowledge that I really shouldn't be talking about films that are not out and all that,
All right.
and so I won't talk about that. But really, my whole purpose of doing that was to understand where these lines are drawn, especially in relation to anime and manga, and when discussing lolicon and comparing it back to moe. And being able to say the classification board can easily distinguish between something that is, a lolicon piece of media and moe media in Australia.
Yes, because and as we've unpacked here, we've been able to identify some Western text, My Little Pony, Dobby,
I knew it.
Dobby, of course, the Minions,
Bluey.
Yeah, I think Bluey's a really useful one to show how harmless this category is and how universal and engaged in the Western space it is as well. However, I guess if we're defining it outside of those character traits into the emotions you feel towards a character, then it's a kind of under researched space, that affect theory space, in terms of obviously psychology has a long history of then unpacking what emotional states mean.
There's a
how to
current
regulate that.
ongoing longitude study into anime and manga, which I think in the last version, which was this year's one, they've actually asked a bit about your emotional response to characters.
And that here we're talking about, do you feel like feelings of anger? And I guess it shows like you need a level of emotional intelligence to understand what emotions you're experiencing. Because I think most people don't have, that's a very broad I think for some, it could be very challenging to explain their emotions, right? It's like, well, how did this make you feel? Well, what do you mean? I felt good. It's like, no. Did you have elevated heart rate? Did you have, a tensing of the hands, like a feeling of anger, right? I mean, just that kind of illiteracy around emotions and affect seems to be less understood. Then, again, it's much easier to explain Moe in terms of, here's his big eyes. He's a character that has a quirky trait. He's a character that's innocent because of how they're behaving. Yet by saying, and then that makes me feel protective of them, much more difficult to unpack that feeling. Yeah. Which is what we're going to do now on Media Mothership for the next month, an emotional exploration. Well, look, I'm fascinated, Ashley. It's a shame that we're now nearly at the hour, and you've dropped this huge...
I've deliberately left it because I wanted to see your reaction.
Yeah, well, I feel like we've got someone on the inside of the industry now.
You're going to try, though, aren't you?
Well, we're going to change your voice. So obviously, in future shows, we'll modulate your voice into some kind of Dalek-type being. So no one will know it's you. And we'll get you to take us through some of the work you do.
I don't think I do any work.
Well, the hilarious thing is this is just an offshoot of the fact you're doing a PhD research project.
Yes.
On, what is it?
Gender bending, anime and manga.
That's right, and transphobia is still an aspect within that?
So it's all to do with understanding how gender diverse people, I guess the effect they get from gender bending anime and manga and that. So unpacking how people identify with the characters, identify with the series, reject the series, do they find it offensive, those sorts of things. And this has all come up while looking at it and become a bit of a side project.
That's so interesting to me because that moe category of it then arousing in someone a feeling of protectiveness, if you're cosplaying as a moe character, innocent, then how do you handle someone then behaving towards you in world as wanting to protect you or to, like a puppy, hug you, right? I mean, there's this whole aspect of permission, which would be really difficult translating into
there definitely needs to be more work unpacking even narrative structures and like how moe is constructed and that.
But I guess part of the interesting thing here is, and we're going to bite into a little bit of K-pop Unlimited style.
Yeah, no worries. I haven't even got any music ready yet.
Let's do another hour then of Moe. Is how, part of what was interesting to hear about your journey here, Ashley, is that it's also about setting limits on your research, right? In terms of what will I and won't I be doing? In terms of all research needs limits because you can't just write forever. And you found that useful in terms of knowing now more clearly what aspects of cosplay and texts you're looking at?
I pretty much, I would say solely basically focus on gender identity and maybe a bit on sexuality, but, I'm going offshoot to talk about, I guess, feminism and how the regulation under the law impacts based on this sort of more fan fiction media and all that. So I have basically set my boundaries of there's so much really cool pop culture stuff that I would love to talk about, like stuff like Lego and things like that, but I cannot do it. My research has to have a boundary. Yeah. Let's keep it to Japanese pop culture.
Well, I do feel, this aspect of moe we will return to in the future. It's an interesting, because it's a term based on affect, it feels, right? So I think you're right in terms of deferring to Patrick Galbraith's definition, saying that it's as you're talking about whether you liked a movie or a character or, I'm thinking even fast food franchises like McDonald's or something. Do you like Ronald McDonald? How does it... Oh, the Grimace character and the Grimace shake, for instance, right? Like my kid wanted the Grimace shake. and I'm thinking part of that was a Moe response, right? It's Grimace, the character design of Grimace is I don't know, doesn't
That was a
instill
TikTok response, that particular
Moe-ness.
one. So
True.
yeah.
Yeah. And TikTok might be very Moe based at moments, I think, as well. But anyway, I think it's provide, again, it's that kind of difficulty of talking with emotional intelligence about feelings. And does popular culture help us develop a language around it? But also recognize that there are barriers to that. Like we can, like the slide from Moe to lolicon is a transgression, which, yeah, we won't go into it now with 5:02 being the time. Okay, this has been Media Mothership for another week. I'm really fascinated by Moe, so we'll put some show notes in there. We'll come back to it later. Thanks, everyone, for listening. This has been Dr. Craig. I've been joined by Lord Taylor, right, and talking about how you can apply online for qualifications.
Yeah.
It does feel like you should apply for this now as well.
Exactly.
Because, of course, you became a lord through the internet. You became an ordained priest.
Through the internet.
Yes.
You're also an ordained priest.
Yeah.
Hey!
Are you also an ordained priest? Did you ever get ordained?
Technically, I'm a pastor for the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Oh, you're flying spaghetti. So you really...
I'm a Pastafarian. So yes.
Wow. Yeah. See, I only hear about those things and never act upon them. You've actually acted upon them. Joining up. So, Ashley, wonderful to have you on again in terms of now the revelation that you're also a priest or a ordained
a pastor,
Pastafarian from that church, as well as now a card-carrying classifier.
I don't have a card for that one, but I have got a card for the priest.
Well, a PDF holding member of the Australian Classification Board. So keep listening now. Coming up, maybe K-Pop Unlimited.
No, it will. I just need to get some music together.
Okay, it might be then if we can get the music together.
Yeah, well.
Keep listening now to Age Radio. Show notes will be available on YouTube and Twitch, as well as your podcast provider of choice. You got to get the system back up.
You should have been doing that before when we were talking.
I was having various revelations and epiphanies. All right, so keep listening now to Age Radio.